You burned your hand on something hot. You pulled back before you even knew what happened. And then, half a second later, the pain arrived. That's what it felt like. The pain came from your hand. That is always what it feels like. That is also not what's happening. Your hand has no ability to produce pain. The tissue in your body can detect damage, heat, pressure, the chemicals from a torn cell, and it sends signals up through your nerves. But those signals have no feeling in them. They are data. What transforms that data into the burning, the ache, the throbbing that won't let you sleep happens somewhere else entirely. It happens in your brain. Your brain constructs pain. It decides whether to generate it, how intense to make it, where in your body to place it, and occasionally, whether to generate it at all, even when nothing is wrong. This is not a metaphor. This is what pain science has been telling us for 60 years. In 1965, Ronald Melzack and Patrick Wall published a paper in Science that changed everything medicine assumed about pain. The prevailing model before that paper was simple. Damage occurs. Signals travel to the brain. You feel pain. One input, one output. Melzack and Wall showed it was wrong. They discovered that pain signals could be modified in the spinal cord before they ever reached the brain. There were gates. Those gates could be opened or closed by the brain itself. The brain was not passively receiving pain. It was deciding how much pain to allow through. Think about what that means. Two people sustain the same injury. One experiences moderate pain. The other is overwhelmed. The difference is not in the injury. It is in how the brain evaluates the signal. Attention shapes pain. Fear amplifies it. Context determines it. When you are distracted, the same wound hurts less. When you are afraid, it hurts more. Not because the signal changed, because the brain's assessment of the threat changed. Henry Beecher documented this in 1946. Treating soldiers with severe combat wounds near the front lines of World War II, he found that roughly 3/4 of badly wounded men declined morphine. They were conscious and aware of their injuries. They simply did not experience the pain as overwhelming. Back in civilian practice, patients with comparable wounds were in severe pain and needed significant medication. Same injuries, very different pain. The difference was meaning. For the soldier, a wound meant survival, getting out. For the civilian, it meant catastrophe. The brain processed identical damage through two completely different threat assessments and produced two completely different experiences. Pain is not the damage. Pain is what the brain decides the damage means. Sometimes this architecture becomes visible in ways the old model cannot explain. Phantom limb pain. People who have lost a limb to amputation sometimes feel intense, specific pain in the limb that no longer exists, in a hand with no tissue, fingers with no nerves. The pain is real in every experiential sense. It is simply being generated with no signal from the body, because the brain still holds a map of where the limb used to be and expects input from that location. When the input stops arriving, it generates its own. Vilayanur Ramachandran at UC San Diego found a treatment using nothing but a mirror. Patients placed their intact limb in front of a mirror positioned where the missing limb would have been. When they moved their existing arm and watched the reflection, the brain received visual information suggesting the missing limb was moving freely. For many patients, the phantom pain decreased, not because anything changed in the body, because the brain received new information and updated its model. Ramachandran was not treating a body part. He was correcting a prediction. Pain is a prediction. Your brain constantly builds a model of your body using every available signal, nerve input, memory, emotional state, whether you feel safe, whether you have been hurt like this before. It uses that model to predict how much pain is appropriate right now. When signals suggest more threat than expected, it turns pain up. When the context suggests safety, it turns pain down. Ted Kapchuk at Harvard Medical School tested this directly. He gave patients with chronic back pain a placebo pill and told them explicitly that it was a placebo. No deception, no active ingredient. And then he prescribed it anyway, with the same routine of care, the same follow-up. Patients who knew they were taking a sugar pill still reported meaningful reductions in pain compared to those receiving nothing. The ritual of treatment, even a known fake treatment, changed the context the brain was operating in. The threat assessment shifted. The pain changed with it, not because of what was in the pill, because of what the act of treatment communicated about safety. This matters most for chronic pain. When pain persists long enough, the brain learns to produce it. The pathways that generate that pain strengthen with repetition. The brain becomes efficient at producing it, even after the original damage has healed. The pain is completely real. The nervous system is generating it. The brain has simply practiced this response long enough that it has become the default. Your brain is running this calculation constantly and invisibly. You feel pain in your knee and experience it as a direct report from your knee. The brain does not announce itself as the author. It presents the output as if it came from the tissue, as if it were a measurement, as if it were simply information. It is not information. It is a decision. When you burned your hand sent a signal. Your brain received it, evaluated it against everything it knows about you and the world, decided it represented a real threat, and produced what you felt as pain. You did not feel your hand. You felt your brain's decision about your hand. The pain was never there. It was always here.